Hello, this is JB. I live in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and today I'm going to talk about how I became a writer. I have been published in, I used to work for a newspaper, so I've been published in newspapers, been published in magazines and online, obviously, a lot of different outlets. I've written newspaper articles, I've written opinion or editorials, op-eds, and I've written press releases and all different sorts of things in order to share ideas. And my interest in being a writer started out very young because when I was a kid, my mom was a preschool and elementary school teacher, and she read books to me and my brother and sister. And I enjoyed it because whenever you read a story, you understand an idea. Not just what happened in the story, but usually there's a bigger idea that goes along with it, and I like that. I like this idea of learning and better understanding everything. And so I learned to read very early, and then by the time I was like in first grade, I was reading the newspaper, if not every day, as often as I could get a newspaper in my hands. Normally, my grandfather, my mom's side would save them for me, or sometimes I would get my mom and dad to buy one for me, or I would go to the library. But I started very early reading the newspaper because I like to know what was going on, and I like to better understand everything that I wasn't necessarily around all the time. And so I read a lot, and I liked the news especially because it was about real things and real events, and it wasn't like kid-like and immature and about like cartoons and all that. It was real stuff, and I was always kind of a serious person. This cat is gonna piss me off, but so I read a lot elementary school, middle school, and when I was in middle school, a lot of times I ate lunch, or I didn't even get to eat lunch because I didn't have the money. But I spent my lunch time in the library. I would go in there and read, and then one day the librarian said, "Jarrett, do you want to surf the World Wide Web?" And I said, "I don't know what that means." And she said, "You can read the newspaper on the computer." And I really liked that because you could read papers from all over the country. New York Times, Miami Herald, LA Times, Chicago Tribune, so many different other ones. And I just liked this idea of being able to understand what was going on in places that I was not. And that was really cool. And like in 7th grade, they had this test in North Carolina, writing test that was like a really important test, and you had to do well on it. And I was nervous about it, but I didn't have a reason to be because I performed very well, and I was ahead of most of my peers. And I told my teacher, her name was Miss Henson, at the parent-teacher conference, or not conference, but open house or something, me and my mom went, and I told her that I was nervous, and she said, "You have no reason to be." She said, "You're going to do better than everybody." And so that gave me a lot of confidence. And I had been told in the past that I was a pretty good writer, but that gave me a lot of confidence. But I used to write on my own, not for publishing, not for anybody to read, just write, because I wanted to express myself and I wanted to get my ideas out. And so I did that like all throughout high school. And then after I graduated high school, I went to work, but in my free time I would write. And I had all these ideas about working for newspapers or being a news reporter on the radio, because I liked the radio also. Was never really much on TV, but interested in TV, but especially the news and the newspapers and the radio. And so that's what I wanted to do, and I figured, well, if you're going to do that, you either have to go to college, which I didn't have the opportunity to do full time, or you have to do something that makes people want to hire you. And so what I did was I contacted all of these people who were involved in high profile cases. I just wrote them letters and asked them questions about themselves, about their case, about what's going on now, and different things like that to try to get something interesting. And a lot of them actually wrote me back. There was all different kind of people, including the people who were convicted of murdering Michael Jordan's father, people involved in the Ray Caruth case. He was a football player that was involved in the death of Sharika Adams, several different people in that one. There was Michael Peterson, who was the author, who was convicted and then freed and found, I guess, not guilty for the death of his spouse. And just different people like that trying to get something. And most of them didn't give me anything very interesting. They just said what they had already said in on TV or in the newspapers. Some of them gave more reasons why they weren't innocent or why they weren't guilty. And, but a lot of what they said was to be expected. But I guess the reason why I did it was to try to learn something that nobody else knew. And I may have learned some things, but they weren't really like news. So like I couldn't write an article and get it published, and then people would know who I was. But I did have some interesting conversations, and I learned a lot about people and the way they think. And I learned how to interview and ask questions and gauge how people responded. So I did that. And then I just had to go to work, basically. So I worked a couple years in the tile and marble industry, which my family had done for many years. Still, some of my family's in. And then I worked did different jobs, but I started working in seafood processing and meat packing, and I ended up in Dodge City, Kansas. It's a small town in southwest Kansas, working at a meat packing plant. And there, I was a saw operator, so I was moving these big pieces of meat and then cutting them all day, every day. It's very physical and very hard because the meat is heavy. But I did that, and it's a very boring job because you're doing the same thing over and over and over. And they allowed us to listen to music, even though it was very noisy in the factory. They had these noise canceling earphones, so I could listen to music, and I would listen to all different sorts of lectures, like college lectures and guest lectures and stuff like that, to learn about different things, mostly about history, law, political science, that sort of thing. But I listened to a lot. And also, at some point, 2013, I was reading the Dodge City Globe newspaper, and it said there was a opening for a newspaper reporter. And I had known a reporter sometime before that, but there was an opening for a newspaper reporter. And so I applied for it, and I went in for the interview, and I showed the publisher my resume. His name was Conrad Easterday. He was a longtime newspaper publisher and still is, I think, in Oklahoma. But he said, well, you've never worked in the newspaper industry before, and you never graduated college. And I said, well, no, not yet. And he said, well, then why should I hire you? And I said, well, I've had a lot of experiences in my life, and I've learned a lot in my life, and I've also learned what questions to ask, and I can tell an interesting story based on what I learned using the facts. And I said, I'm very curious, I'm very interested, and I want to meet people and find out their story, and I want to tell it. I said something like that. And he said, okay. And so we made a deal where I would work on a contract basis, and they would pay me per story. And They let me pick most of my own stories. They didn't tell me what to write, and so I just went out in the community and met people. And sent people emails, and sometimes people contacted me. But I just wrote stories, and they liked them, and they published them. And at one point, they asked me if I would work full time, and I really couldn't because the newspaper wanted to pay $12 an hour that I was making at that time. I can't remember what it was. Maybe $14.80? No, something around like $14, $14.60. I don't know, but I was making more at the meat packing plant than I could in the newspaper, and that's the sad truth about the newspaper industry. Unless you work like at the New York Times or something, you're not going to make much money. And even there, you're not going to make much. You're not going to make as much as you should for your talent. But so I just couldn't afford to do it. I wanted to do it because I loved it. I loved talking to and interviewing people from the government, people from sports, people involved in civic organizations and nonprofits, and just regular folks. I got to talk to a wide variety of people and learn about them, and learn about what they were doing so that I could tell the public through the newspaper, and it was great. I enjoyed it. It's one of my favorite jobs that I've ever had, and I've had a lot of jobs. But I enjoyed the work and the money. I sent them the invoice and they paid me, but the money wasn't really what it was about for me. It was about that experience. I interviewed so many people that some of them had really high positions, and some of them were just like people off the street, like just regular members of our community, and but they all had a story to tell, and I wanted to tell it, and I did. So I like that. And then after that, I just kept writing on my own. I wrote different press releases for different companies and different individuals who were trying to do something important, mostly for free, which is fine. And I started writing op-eds, opinion pieces about public issues affecting the public and politics. Did a lot of that, and all that helped me because when I finally had the opportunity to go back to college, when the pandemic hit, I was a really strong writer. Like, there was nobody in any of my classes that was anywhere close to me, and I'm not putting them down. It's just that I had more experience and I worked more at it than they did because they were a lot younger than me at that point. And so it benefited me in that way, and then I went and got a master's degree, and now I'm going to law school. But no matter what I do, and I'll always be a writer, because being a writer is really important to me, because it's one of the ways that I express myself. I have always expressed myself since birth, and even before I could talk, I was speaking. And so, in a sense, and so I have something to say, and I also like to share those ideas and hopefully influence others, or start a conversation where I tell them my piece, they tell me their piece, and we learn from each other, and we're both better for it. That's good. That's the best outcome. Is not one person has all the ideas and the other people listen. Everybody puts in their idea, and then the public says, yeah, it's a good idea, or yeah, it's a bad idea. And that's why I like the opinion page of the newspaper, because all the different people, anybody who wants to contribute, as long as their writing meets certain expectations for quality, no matter what their opinion is, they can share it. It's a beautiful thing. And so yeah, I'll always be a writer, and I'll always use stories to explain more important ideas. My philosophy about writing, and I was thinking about this as late as last week, I was thinking, what is the writer? And a writer is kind of like an artist, but they use words to paint pictures in order to share important messages. So they use words in a way that are meaningful and impactful, and that tell a story and that resonate with people, so that they learn something from it. And maybe it's not what they want to learn, but there's some takeaway. Like I like to say that if you read something that I wrote, that when you get up to leave the table, you take something and you put it in your pocket and you take it with you. And hopefully it's a good thing. Hopefully it's something that makes your life better. But like I like this idea of sharing ideas, because I like to learn too, so I read other people's work, and every time I do, hopefully, I learn something useful that I can keep and that I can share with other people, or that I can just use for my own life to make my own life better, some wisdom. And that's a good thing. And I think everybody should find some way to communicate. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to become a writer. You don't have to become a public speaker. And I've done public speaking, spoken at 3 universities, one at the bachelor's level, one at the master's, and one at JD level. But like, you don't have to become that kind of person. But like, even if it's just for yourself or for your family, like write letters to your kids and tell them some things that you know that will help them, or tell them how much you care about them and how much you want them to succeed, or anything else. Like share some wisdom with them. Or your parents, tell your parents how important they are to you, and how you remember something that they did or said, and how it helped you and how it made your life better and how you still use it even now. Or tell your teachers, and I've done this several times recently. Try to figure out where your old teachers are and say, hey, you were my 5th grade teacher, you were my 7th grade teacher, my whatever grade. I remember sitting in your class. I enjoyed it. You were a great teacher. You made the class fun. And this is what I learned from you, and this is how I do it now, and how I use it now. And this is how what I learned has made my life better. Or anything that you want to tell them. Doesn't have to be exactly like I would tell them. But people who receive those kind of letters, sometimes they're surprised because they've never been told that before, even though it's very true, and they've impacted a lot of people. Not that many people will say it. And so, like if you write someone a letter or an email or a Facebook message or whatever, they're probably going to really appreciate it, because everybody likes to feel appreciated, and they like to know that what they've done is remembered. And so do that. Or write your own story. Like everybody has a story. Even if you're not a writer, like you didn't want to become a writer, you have a story to tell. Cat, god damn it. But you have a story to tell. Sorry. You have a story to tell. And so whatever it is that you do, like, write about that. Like, why you do it. What is it you like about it? What is it you don't like about it? Why it makes you happy to do it. And it could be about anything. Just find something to that matters to you, and put that into words. Because at some point, when you get old, you'll start thinking more about your life, and you'll want to be able to look back and remember different parts of your life and what you were going through in those times. And also, if you have family members, people that come after you, then they'll want to know about you. Like, what was it like when you first started that business? Or what was it like when you got married? What was it like when you, first started whatever occupation you do? They'll want to know about that. And even if now they're like, oh yeah, whatever, I don't care. At some point, they'll care and they'll want to know. And like, I lost my mom in 2018. I think I already said this, but when I lost my mom, she was just gone, and I didn't have anything except some pictures, and my memories of her to hold on to. But I wish I had um, I that's not true. I did have some letters, but I wish I had more letters. I wish she wasn't a writer, and that's fine. But I wish she would have written things to tell me more about her life. Um, and I knew her well, but there's a lot of things that moms don't tell kids, and not even bad things, but they just want to shelter them or protect them from knowing too much. But like, I wish that I understood her better. And I understood her well, but wish I understood her better. And also, I think she had a lot of wisdom, some that she shared with me and some that I didn't listen to, that I wish would have been in words that I could have kept. But that's not what happened. But, I mean, words have tremendous power, so you can use them to hurt people, and you can use them to help people. You can use them to make people feel bad or make people feel good. You can do a lot of things. But I've tried to do it the right way. I've tried to use words to make people feel good and to help people. And I think that words are that if you use words the right way, you can have a tremendous amount of impact on people, and you can make what you say matter and remember. And so I think that's why I write, because I just want there to be something of me left. Like, hopefully I'm not going to die anytime soon, but if I do, people will know about me. They'll get this great big pile of books that aren't published and they're not for sale, but my family will be able to look through all my writings and say, "Oh, now we understand him." And so that's that. But I'm going to continue writing. I'm going to write for different reasons, but this is how I came to the point of being a writer. This is why I wanted to be a writer, and this is why I think writing is important, and why other people, even if they don't fancy themselves as writers, should write a little bit. So thank you for listening. Have a good day. Bye.